When children attend school for the first time, they bring different background knowledge and skills with regard to literacy. They have all some experience of written language in their environment. Some have already begun reading, others have some knowledge of letters and sounds, and then there are those who need to learn all the letters and their sounds. The teaching approach, beginning literacy, assumes that all children can be taught together, irrelevant of their initial status. Consequently, individualized needs of pupils are met through group work and paired work. Beginning literacy is an interactive and holistic approach where all aspects of the language are addressed. Work on speaking, listening, writing and reading is interwoven. Various aspects of language study are included in the teacher's weekly plans, such as vocabulary, phonemic awareness, spelling, handwriting, syntax and grammar.
Einu sinni var strákur með mógræn augu að bíða.
Beginning literacy is developed in 3 steps. During the first step, pupils are exposed to a text of quality, chosen by the teacher each week. In the second step, they deal with technical aspects of literacy. The third step encourages pupils to express their own ideas, preferably linked to the vocabulary of the text they studied in the first step. Technical work with print and sound takes place within the vocabulary of the text introduced in Step 1. As pupils' skills and knowledge improve, they are encouraged to work more towards independence. It is assumed that literacy lessons occur 2 to 3 times a day, every day of the week, at a minimum 90 minutes per day. During the first step of beginning literacy, the teacher reads aloud to pupils a story, a poem, or informational text. During reading, the teacher shows text and pictures to the pupils. The teacher makes use of the opportunities the text provides to discuss and enjoy the meaning. The whole text is read in one episode. During the next lesson, which could be the same day, the teacher reads either all the text or well-chosen parts of it. More aspects of the content are discussed. As rich vocabulary is the foundation of good comprehension, the teacher draws pupils' attention to specific words and phrases. Pupils are encouraged to participate in shared reading. Following the reading and discussion, the pupils need to have access to the weekly book in order to study it and enjoy. In the beginning, the texts are usually too difficult for most pupils to read by themselves.
Þau byrja á að lesa texta og lesa hann tvisvar, þrisvar, lesa hvort fyrir annað, finna orð sem þau skilja ekki og reyna þá bæði að annarkvort að spyrja kennarann eða helst að reyna að finna út frá því sjálf hvað að gerast. Og svo þau svolítið svona aðlöguð. Þau eru kannski í 3 mismunandi þyngdum eftir hvar nemendur eru staddir.
The teacher sees to it that the vocabulary of the chosen text becomes familiar to pupils. She may organize various games using this vocabulary, which have been designed to enhance word recognition. The teacher's reading is partly to enhance pupils' collective experience of discussion of meaning and words. The teacher continues to read aloud to pupils, although they themselves are getting more skilled at reading. The pupils also read parts of the text and talk about it. Gradually, the pupils take over the reading aloud and start reading to each other. Technical work comes in the wake of reading aloud and discussion about the text. This technical work involves, for example, sounds and graphemes, phonemic awareness, handwriting, spelling of irregular words, complex words, and use of capital letters.
Ég skipulagði svolítið hópaskipt og með kannski 6 til 8 verkefni í einu inn í bekknum, kannski ekki öll í einu, en svona nokkur verkefni í gangi í einu. Og það það þannig að þeir sem að þurfa ennþá hljóðgreiningar þjálfun, þeir fá slík verkefni. Ég nota leiki og spil með orðum, þar sem þau spila jöfnuspil, þau spila veiðumann og þau nota þessi spil líka í stafsetningaræfingar.
The context for this kind of work is the vocabulary of the text which was introduced to the pupils in the first step.
Hefðbundnar vinnubækur eru lítið sem ekkert notaðar. Þær eru aukaefni og koma sáralítið inn í beina kennslu.
In beginning literacy, It is expected that pupils are grouped in pairs or threes when they work on these technical activities. The teacher has mainly 3 choices when organising such work. The teacher can invite all pupils to do the same kind of work. This applies mainly when new ideas or techniques are introduced and taught. This approach does not take account of individual needs. The teacher may also organise workstations with different tasks, where one group might work on phonemic awareness, another practising handwriting, the third practising decoding, and the fourth recognising frequent words. Pupil groups might move from one station to another. Finally, the exercises at certain workstations could be tailor-made for particular pupils. That way, some pairs and groups could work on activities intended to enable them to make progress in literacy study. But other pairs of pupils may have repeated teaching of a particular letter or sound, or the difference between F and V, or the reversal of letters B and D. In each text, the teacher chooses a keyword to study and discuss. The keyword becomes a tool for the technical aspect of learning to read. The keyword needs to represent a predetermined goal. That way, the keyword could have 2 specific letters to teach this week. Having chosen a keyword, the teacher writes it on a flip chart. In this case, the teacher has decided to teach the letters it, al. She found the word blaut in the text. She also chose that particular word because there are other words hidden in it.
Stafainnlögn fer alltaf þannig fram að við veljum okkur svona merkingabæran texta. Við skoðum bækur og tökum út lykilorð sem að inniheldur þá stafi sem við ætlum að taka fyrir eða kynna fyrir þeim. Hafa stafasambönd eða hljóð sem að liggja saman. Til dæmis var ég með hérna blátt og var þá að hugsa ell og á og þá lykilorðið hjá mér blátt. Síðan tek ég út ell og á og kynni stafina og hljóðin. Síðan förum við í að velja okkur eða búa til orð úr lykilorðinu og leikum okkur með það svolítið meira.
The teacher reads the keyword slowly to pupils, emphasising each sound. Following the introduction of the whole word, the pupils look for words within the word without altering the order of letters. The children soon become amazingly skilled in studying the keyword, finding hidden words, and making new ones by reordering the letters.
Þegar búið að leggja inn stafina, þá vinnum við meira með þá. Við til dæmis erum að leira stafina, við skrifum þá, við málum þá, bæði á pappír og eins með pensli á töflu.
As pupils become more skilled, they start choosing their own keywords, finding hidden words and making new ones. The vocabulary that stems from the keyword may be used for technical work as well as in restructuring meaning and composing in the third and last step of beginning literacy. When entering school in first grade, some pupils can recognise some letters and some are already reading, but many still have to learn letters and their sounds. In beginning literacy, the keyword is used for teaching letters and their sounds. 2 letters are taught together. They need to stand side by side in the word. Based on the keyword and introduction of letters, the pupils then practice various tasks where they connect sound and letter, recognise letters and sounds in words, and learn how to write letters. Pupils who already know the letters in question work also on tasks based on the keyword, but different ones. All pupils need to learn correct ways of writing the letters, irrelevant of how literate they are. Phonological awareness develops quite early, but phonemic awareness develops only when children start learning to read.
Lagar fljóti. Ljót, lag, lagar, laga, jól, lala.
In beginning literacy, practice with phonemic awareness is always connected to the meaningful text the class is working on each week, which establishes familiar vocabulary and provides the chosen key word. Usually the keyword is used to practice phonemic awareness. It is of importance to make use of peer coaching in literacy learning. Therefore, most of the activities in literacy learning are planned as cooperative learning tasks. That applies to, for example, letter-sound relationships, decoding, handwriting, spelling, predicting, retelling, and clarifying words and ideas. Games of various sorts ensure collaborative interaction, where pupils support each other. Games make certain that there are roles and rules to follow. Pupils become active learners and the learning itself becomes enjoyable. An important part of literacy learning is to recognise the most frequently used words without sounding them out letter by letter. Examples of frequent words are to, I, you, he, said, not. One way to get familiar with whole words is to study their words and draw their outer form, so-called word shapes. Each word is written on a piece of paper and the shadow of it on another piece. That way, the pupils may make their own memory game, which they consequently play with. It is necessary to take into account that pupils learn at different speeds and by diverse strategies. The teacher assesses the learning needs of each child with regularity. She studies outcomes of screening tests, talks with the pupils and their parents. One of the most important criterion of beginning literacy is usually not to correct pupils. Instead, the teacher, mostly through everyday work, notes information about learning success and needs. Within a week, the teacher needs to react to the identified needs of the pupils in the classroom. Some pupils need repeated teaching and modelling. As the teacher wants the repeated teaching to be successful, she makes careful plans, taking into account multisensory approaches. She plans for ideal conditions for repeated teaching and the first few practices. The pupil then has to practice the new skills at least 2 or 3 times a day for a few days until the desired outcomes have been reached. As the ultimate goal of repeated teaching is automatic knowledge and/or skills, the teacher needs to pay attention to the frequency of practice, variety of activities and appropriate demands within the activities she is planning. It is considered better to cover less, but learn well. One can identify at least 4 steps within the reading itself. During the first step, the teacher reads aloud for pupils and models good reading behaviour. She draws attention to vocabulary as well. In shared reading, the teacher reads the majority of the text, but pupils join her in reading selected words and sentences. In the third step, guided reading, the pupils read most of the text, but the teacher draws their attention to difficult words and supports their reading. Finally, the pupils read the text independently for themselves or their peers.
Afkvæmin heita grísir. Gildirnir mjög frjósa.
Fyrirkomulagi hefur verið þannig þegar við erum með eina bók að við notum bókinni heila viku, byrjum á því fyrsta daginn að lesa söguna og ræða söguna og vinna með lykilorð og svo framvegis. Þau sjá ekki texta nema þegar þau skiptast á að skoða bókina og skiptast á að lesa hana hvert fyrir sig. Við lesum hana aldrei saman í hóp þegar það er breytt eintak, en þau sjá textan í verkefni frá mér. Reglulega alla vikuna. Ýmist verkefni sem ég hef búið til með þar sem ég skrifa smá útdrátt úr bókinni sem að þau fá þá öll í hendurnar og lesa og vinna með á ýmsan hátt, eða verkefni sem ég búið til, ritunarverkefni eða sundurgreinandi verkefni þar sem að einhver texti eða orð úr bókinni koma fyrir. Þannig að þau sjá textan reglulega þessa heilu viku sem við vinna með bókina. Og ef við eigum bekkjarsett af bókum sem eru góðar bækur, þannig við getum notað þær inn í þetta, að þá er það hið besta mál.
When pupils are still in early phases of learning to read, they are able to retell the content of a text they have been listening to. They can also read single words from a complex text. The third step of beginning literacy is reconstruction of meaning. Pupils draw pictures. They write their own texts, make plays and music, depending on what suits the occasion and what the pupils wish to do. They draw upon the vocabulary that was introduced during the first step. They do not rebuild what was worked with in the beginning, rather they create new texts on their own or step outside the original text. In that way, the pupils may have Cinderella write a letter to the prince to thank him for a wonderful evening, or they might have the ugly duckling write a diary to express his feelings when everyone said that he was ugly. Pupils might write an information text about animals or compose and play a musical piece describing the emperor's parade, while he thought he had beautiful clothes on and when he suddenly realised that he was only wearing his underclothes. Listening, speaking, writing and reading are interwoven. When pupils' writing is planned in the beginning, The most important thing is that expression is the core concept, but form and spelling are in the background. Young pupils first express themselves through drawings, but gradually they add words and chunks of words, and finally they write whole sentences and paragraphs. The need for expression is an important basis for the development of writing skills. The play, which comes naturally to children, is used as a tool to support their awareness for story structure. One way is to use a story plan as a starting point. The teacher provides a story plan and toys for characters. The pupils give the characters life and personalities, create an environment and decide on the story and events within it. In the beginning, the emphasis is on role play and oral telling.
Það sem við þurfum að hafa í huga hvar gerist sagan? Gerist hún á Íslandi, gerist hún í útlöndum, gerist hún inni, gerist hún úti? Við þurfum að hafa í huga hvenær sagan gerist hún kannski í gamla daga, gerist hún núna, gerist hún í framtíðinni? Og við þurfum að hafa persónur í sögunni, hverjir í sögunni, kannski það fólk, kannski dýr.
The story plan leads the children through stages of making characters, environment and storyline. Within each story plan, there needs to be a key event which demands some kind of solution. The pupils tell the story and talk on behalf of the characters. When they have become quite skilled in creating stories like that, they start writing them down. As well as supporting much reading of all kinds and enhancing vocabulary, it is necessary to teach the pupils strategies to help them with comprehension. Reciprocal teaching is one of many learning strategies in which pupils learn to retell the main thoughts, explain words, and predict meaning. Concept mapping is another strategy. Concept maps help pupils to record information, categorize and sort them from broad to specific. Children from 6 years old are able to assimilate both of these strategies. Literacy is considered to be a basic skill in modern society. The orthographic language has social purpose, where individuals read to learn and develop as persons. During the act of reading, there is interaction between the text and the reader, what the author has to say and what the reader, him or herself, brings to the reading. Decoding skills and spelling are preconditions for being a good reader. However, at the core of literacy learning is comprehension, purpose, and how texts are used. Literacy teaching needs to take notice of this basic view and address reading, writing, listening, and speaking as interlinked issues.
Mosi og Málfríður og mamma hennar Málfríður fannst skemmtilegt í rútunni.
Þegar við erum að vinna með þekktan orðaforða og ríkan texta, þá vinnan, hún skemmtilegri, hún áhugaverðari og það meiri gleði.
The goal of beginning literacy is that children acquire good literacy skills as soon as possible once they start school. Beginning literacy integrates work with speech, listening, reading, and writing. Beginning literacy assumes that children with different literacy skills learn together. Therefore, group work is emphasized, in which personalized needs are met. Beginning literacy addresses simultaneously comprehension and technical aspects of literacy. Therefore, technical work with letters and sounds needs to reflect the vocabulary of the text being studied.